9 on CW39 every night. This is a paid program. The ideas expressed do not reflect the views of Nexstar Media Incorporated or this station.
So just get ready, so it won't be that long. I'm definitely going to thank my mom. I got to thank my grandma, because they're the two who were the most influential in this journey of writing when I was a little kid. I have to thank the public libraries that I was allowed to go into to read books and sit down and find really great stories and understand that the world wasn't just on the 3 or 4 blocks that I could walk around on safely in Chicago when I was growing up. Hi, I'm Mark Sneed. I'm today's guest on Beyond the Page.
Does your office look something like this? Systems always failing, questionable security procedures, the boss ready to tear his hair out? Hello everyone, Joe Engelking here, Vice President of LME Services. So what is LME? We're your business technology experts.
I guess you're really asking how did I start writing, I guess, and what is the value of my writing or something? I don't know. I think that when I think about how I became a published writer, my process began with writing for school and writing, to pass the time when I had finished all my work and stuff. And so I wrote something, and one of my teachers snatched it from me, thinking that I was kind of screwing around, and thought it was really good, and told my mom about it. And I thought I was going to get in trouble. And of course, my mom, finding out that it was something good, thought it was really good, and she was just, I don't know, overjoyed that I had done something good in school. I mean, it's not like I wasn't a bad kid in school, but she really found that a teacher had found something that needed to be highlighted beyond just my grades. And so that's kind of how I got here. I've always wanted to be a writer, I guess. I like the idea of creating things. And I've always liked to read books, because when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of outlets, and I would go outside and get beat up. So I didn't want to go outside and get beat up. So the thing for me was to simply lose myself in reading, or lose myself in creating ideas of worlds and visions of, I don't know, everything that I could imagine. I have always been really creative, and so like when I was a kid, I liked army men. I'd create my own army men because we couldn't afford them, so I made them army men out of like paper bags. I would just take paper bags, and my mom had like scissors from like sewing, and I would cut them up into army men for myself. So I've always been kind of creative, and so that's how I think started to see myself as a person who could create something. And so writing was probably the cheapest way, because I couldn't film something. I didn't have a camera. I couldn't act because it was just me, and I couldn't imagine myself acting alone. I take that back. I did remember trying to be Marcel, the guy who was the pantomime guy who would do this stuff, and I was like, that's kind of stupid. So, and then I was doing it on my own in my own apartment, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that, because I'm already a small little freak, and imagine being a small little freak who's miming and black. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I think when the question of what motivated me to write comes up, I'm always kind of hard pressed to answer, simply because I was a library kid, and my public library is one of the people, or not one of the people, one of the institutes I would love to thank the most, because I didn't have, my mom didn't buy books, and so I would just go to the library and I would read all the time. And I can remember being in school and being a library poster kid. I was actually on a poster in the library for reading, because I think when I was really young, I read like 1,000 books in like 3 months or something, and they gave me some big deal, and I was offered the opportunity to put the star on the Christmas tree because I'd done all this stuff, and they were like, wow, this black little kid is doing all this, and I thought that was great. So I think the motivation came for me in writing. I would have to say that really happened later when I got to college, because I know that I should try to be chronological, right? So like when I was a little kid, and then but I think that probably the thing that motivated me the most is probably my mom and my grandmother. And I apologize for jumping back and forth, but I will have to kind of explain that. So like my mom and my grandmother were the ones who kind of threw praise on me when I did something really good. And so they loved my writing, because I would write my grandmother letters, and my grandmama would like call and say, I got a letter from your son, talk to my mother. And I'd be like, did I get in trouble? And she goes, oh my God, no, the letter is just really amazing. And I was like, it's just a letter. And I knew that I had the power of the word, and writing really was essential. So when I think about my family and their influence, I want to say it in a kind of cautionary tale kind of way. Because I grew up in a very, I want to say, shaky kind of area. And I'll never forget when all the experiences I had as a child, and because they colored my life, and they have colored my life to the point I'm at right now. I grew up with, I don't want to say I grew up with, but I grew up around pimps and hoes and drug dealers and drug users, and so it wasn't. I never had a really safe place to go. So like when I left school, I had to run home because people were chasing me to beat me up. I would have to lock myself into my apartment and then wait, and then when my mother finally arrived, she would make me go out and take the trash out. And when I would take out the trash, I'd have to throw the trash into a dumpster filled with rats, and rats would run out as I threw it in, and I'd be like, again, a little kid, scared, running away from the rats. And when I went to play basketball, there were drug dealers there, and they would be dangerous because they would be gambling while people were playing basketball. And wow, just the experiences, you know. So, but no, I think that my family life is probably the biggest inspiration to me, because it has affected me so much. It just influenced me. It's a heavy burden to have, but simultaneously, I think that my upbringing kind of taught me so much, because there was so much racism when I was growing up. I mean, I was just mistreated. I've explained to my friends that it's really a hard kind of burden to be smart and black, especially and male. And when I was in school, I was one of the smart kids, and the teachers who I had to deal with always questioned and challenged my intelligence. They were like, well, how do you know this information? And it was really an allusion to, did you cheat? And I'm like, why would I cheat? I mean, all it is reading, right? So if you read it, and that's what I think I liked the most about going to school, was that it's really kind of, and I don't like the term now because, you know, it's so weighted, but it was very black and white. So like, the answer is either it was the Civil War or it was the War of 1812. It can't be the same, right? But, you know, now, when I thought about that, those are the things that influenced me, because, you know, when we learn about education is supposed to be this, I don't know, leveling of the playing field for people. And when you really think about it, it's the people who are in charge of that education that make the determination of the leveling of that field.
Meet Mike. Mike is the owner of a growing manufacturing business. He uses several different spreadsheets to manage his sales, operations, and inventory. This has worked okay in the past, but with increasingly less time and more to manage, Mike is looking for a better way. Mike starts researching, but quickly gets overwhelmed. He's buried in acronyms such as ERP, CRM, and MRP, and he doesn't know where to start. Are you like Mike? Prism HQ can help. Please reach out to us for a full